Did you know that in just one day, a surprise attack in Israel resulted in more casualties than any other assault in the past 2 decades? As dawn broke on an unsuspecting nation, the skies were painted not with sunrise hues, but with rockets' trails. An unprecedented assault executed with strategic precision, leaving a trail of devastation in its wake. So beyond the headlines, what's driving this surge in violence? And as the world holds its breath, one question looms. Where will this road lead, and at what cost? Without further ado, let's dive in. The HAMAS. Now, before diving into the nitty-gritty of what's recently transpired, let's zoom out a bit and dig into the backstory of HAMAS. Think of it as understanding the critical player in this intense drama. So, who exactly is HAMAS? Well, originating in the late 1980s, Hamas is a Palestinian Islamist militant faction that holds authority over the Gaza Strip. Its roots trace back to the Muslim Brotherhood, a prominent Sunni Islamist group born in Egypt in the late 1920s. Hamas isn't just a word, it's an acronym for Harakat al-Mukawama al-Islamiyya, which translates to the Islamic Resistance Movement. Like many Palestinian groups, Hamas views Israel as an occupying entity and strives to reclaim Palestinian territories. They don't recognize Israel's legitimacy, to say the least. Since its rise to power in Gaza in 2007, it's been a tumultuous relationship, with several wars ignited between the two. Between these full-blown wars, numerous rockets have been launched at Israel, either directly by Hamas or under its watch. And let's not forget, Israel has retaliated with airstrikes time and time again. Now, it's worth noting that not only does Israel label Hamas as a terrorist entity, but so do the US, the European Union, the UK, and several other nations. Yet despite this, Hamas has its backers. And that is Iran, which funnels funds, weapons, and training to the group. The Gaza Strip is a territory measuring 41 kilometers in length and 10 kilometers in width, situated between Israel, Egypt, and the Mediterranean Sea. It is densely populated, home to approximately 2.3 million inhabitants, making it one of the regions with the highest population densities globally. Israel has significant control over the airspace, shoreline, and even the movement of goods and people in and out of the Strip. Egypt, too, plays a role in managing its border with Gaza. Due to these restrictions and ongoing tensions, most of Gaza's inhabitants rely heavily on international aid, with a massive chunk depending on daily food rations. With this background set, let's unravel what's currently unfolding. Shall we? A day of alarm and aftermath. If you rewind the clock to an early Saturday morning in Israel, chances are you'd find an atmosphere of tranquility. Many would be in the embrace of their dreams, unsuspecting of the storm that was about to follow. But as dawn approached, the serenity was shattered. At around 6:30 a.m., sirens, typically associated with a sense of security and routine, wailed across the country, reaching as far as Tel Aviv. These weren't routine alarms. They signaled an aggressive, multi-front assault launched by the Hamas militants of the Gaza Strip. Israel, caught in a slumber, was about to face an onslaught unlike any other in recent times. Hamas, employing a shock and awe strategy, didn't just limit their assault to rocket fire. They went a step further. They were daringly infiltrating the mighty borders of Israel from every conceivable direction: land, sea, and even air. Paragliders were used, highlighting a degree of audacity and tactical innovation. Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu, recognizing the gravity of the situation, didn't mince words. Declaring Israel at war, he rallied for a massive mobilization of army reserves. For many, the echoes of the 1973 war rang all too clear. Their tragedy is startling and almost poetic, occurring potentially 50 years to the day. By the time the dust settled, the statistics were heart-wrenching. Israeli media, pulling information from rescue officials, reported 250 deaths and approximately 1,500 injuries. This wasn't just another battle, but the bloodiest assault Israel had braved in decades. Not one to sit idle, Israel retaliated, launching Operation Swords of Iron, targeting critical locations in the Gaza Strip. Netanyahu's message was crystal clear. There would be a steep price for Hamas's audacity. As rockets rained, the Palestinian Health Ministry cited a painful tally: 232 fatalities and around 1,700 wounded. But perhaps the most heart-wrenching development in this clash was the capture of Israeli civilians and soldiers dragged into Gaza. The echoes of despair and shock reverberated on social media, with harrowing footage of lifeless soldiers and traumatized civilians. Amid the casualties, a prominent name emerged: Lieutenant Colonel Jonathan Steinberg, a respected figure who had led the famed Nahal Brigade. His demise stands as a poignant symbol of the day's brutality. This incident, laden with grief and strategy, triggers an all-important question. How did these two foes reach such a grim juncture? Let's trace their paths. The historical tapestry of Israel. To truly gauge the complexities of the Israeli-Palestinian relationship, one must trace its origins through the annals of history. The hatred, rooted deep, can be charted back to even before the establishment of Israel in 1948. This isn't merely a political conflict. It's a saga stained by grief, where countless Israeli and Palestinian souls have perished or been mutilated. The canvas of 2023 is stained with heightened tensions. To paint a picture, it's been a year where the bloodshed rates have skyrocketed. Israeli forces have witnessed an alarming rise in Palestinian fatalities in the West Bank, the highest in almost 2 decades. Conversely, Israeli and even foreigners have been tragically ambushed in Palestinian-initiated fights. However, the saga with Hamas offers a unique narrative thread. Cast your mind back to 1987, during the first Palestinian Intifada. This uprising marked the onset of a fierce battle between Hamas and Israel, a fire yet to be extinguished. Rewinding further, in 1967, Israel claimed Gaza from Egypt, only to withdraw in 2005. This strip of land, bustling with 2 million Palestinians, became a battleground in 2007. Here, Hamas asserted its dominance, overpowering Fatah, the primary pillar of the Palestinian Authority. Israel and Egypt's reaction to this power shift? They gripped Gaza in a vice-like grip, imposing an unyielding siege. Israel further tightened the noose with an air and naval blockade. The chronicles of their warfare are littered with notable clashes like the 11-day War of 2021, where casualty numbers tragically rose on both sides. The irony is profound when observing that Saturday's assault, a day of immense devastation, coincided with the 50th commemoration of the 1973 war. This war, initiated by Israel's Arab neighbors, was a surprise offensive launched on Yom Kippur, a day of utmost holiness for Jews. As the dust of history settles, and with the memories of October 6, 1973 echoing in our minds, we're left on a precipice, gazing into an uncertain hole. What path will these rivals tread next? Where will destiny lead these intertwined fates? World leaders react. As rockets lit the sky and tensions soared between Israel and Hamas, the global repercussions were felt. World leaders and nations responded, each with their unique perspective, influenced by historical allegiances, geopolitics, and national interest. Israel's Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu took to the airwaves, addressing an anxious nation. The core of his message was that victory against Hamas wouldn't be immediate. As the IDF pivoted its strategy towards gaining control of the Gaza Strip, Israel's Defense Minister Yoav Gallant made a significant move. By expanding the special security situation across Israel, the IDF was granted more authority, signaling the gravity of the situation. This move was an extension of the earlier measures that had earmarked an 80-kilometer radius around the Gaza Strip as a special security zone. The international community was quick to weigh in. Western countries primarily condemned the Hamas attacks, pledging their support for Israel. The Arab nations, even those that diplomatically recognized Israel, sounded the bells of peace, urging both sides to exercise restraint. Moreover, European officials have condemned the attack by Hamas and expressed their support for Israel. On Saturday, Ursula von der Leyen, the chief of the European Union's Executive Commission, posted on Twitter, labeling the assault as the epitome of terrorism. She emphasized, Israel possesses the inherent right to safeguard itself against such atrocious acts. From across the Atlantic, U.S. leaders firmly extended their hand of support to Israel. A telling phone call between President Joe Biden and Netanyahu underscored this stance. Biden's message was clear and unwavering. The U.S. was shoulder to shoulder with Israel in its right to self-defense. The White House further restated its solidarity, unreservedly condemning the Hamas offensive. In the Middle East, Saudi Arabia, a historical supporter of the Palestinian cause, found itself in a delicate position. Their stance on a two-state solution is known. Yet, amid murmurs of potential diplomatic recognition of Israel and negotiations with the U.S., the kingdom opted for a balanced approach, advocating for de-escalation. Drawing attention towards Europe, Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky expressed obvious support for Israel's inherent right to self-defense and extended his heartfelt condolences to those bereaved by the attacks. Meanwhile, Israel's enemies seized the opportunity to amplify their support for the Palestinian fighters. Iran's Major General Rahim Safavi, close to the supreme leader, praised the Palestinian efforts and pledged unwavering support. Even the members of Iran's parliament began their meeting on Saturday with chants of "Down with Israel" and "Palestine will triumph. Israel is destined to fall." Similarly, Hezbollah, the Lebanese militant group, commended the attacks, revealing its ongoing communication with other Palestinian factions. As the saga unfolds, it's evident that the Israeli-Palestinian conflict isn't merely a regional concern. It's a global focal point, with every missile fired and every statement issued sending ripples across the international stage. So now, what are your thoughts on this? Can there ever be a lasting peace in the region? And if so, what sacrifices must be made to attain it? We'd love to hear your thoughts on this. Thank you for watching.